right. Hey, Facebook. Hey, it's Dr. Kraft with Kraft Chiropractic. We're going to try this again. We're going to be bringing on Mary Jo Van Horn today, going live talking about self-worth for health's sake. And Mary Jo Van Horn is a motivational speaker and personal development coach out of Bismarck. And I personally believe that I consider her to be a mentor. And hopefully we can get her on here shortly. Maybe she'll try using her iPhone here and see if that maybe helps. So in the meantime, we'll just talk about a little bit of things that we're going to be talking about today. Mary Jo Van Horn has been coaching out of Bismarck now for several years, and her direction towards her personal development coaching has one side, but she's also helping a lot of parents and teens with self-worth issues, and she's getting into working with schools in the Bismarck area as well. And all right, here we go. I think we're going to get her in here. Here she comes. See if this works, Mary Jo. She's coming on in. She'll be side by side with me here. I think it's going to work. There she is.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Every time I do these things, it's possible to have some technical things, and I think it'll work just fine. I just got done introducing you, Mary Jo. Welcome, Mary Jo Van Horn.
Well, thanks for having me, Christina. Yeah, I tried to connect using my laptop, but I didn't see the invite, so
Okay.
maybe that doesn't work.
Well, again, trial and error. Have you ever done a broadcast like this side by side?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
So this is how it works. Typically, I'm going to go through today and have you answer some of the questions we had kind of talked about. But Mary Jo, I just got done giving a brief introduction. You're a personal development coach, motivational speaker out of Bismarck, North Dakota. I consider you to be one of my mentors. And I met you, I think, in 2012 or 2013, and your personal development coaching has definitely shifted, correct?
Yes.
Will you please, let's just dive right on in. I want to honor your time today, honor my time today. I know we could talk about this subject for hours. Self-worth for health's sake. Self-worth for health's sake. We're going to talk about self-worth today in teens. We're going to talk about it in the adults still struggling with this issue. Would you like to tell our audience today who Mary Jo Van Horn is today?
Sure. Well, what I am all about today is knowing my life's purpose, which is teaching others that they are worthy of all abundance just because they were born.
Right.
And then from that, bringing in my life's mission. I'm very clear on that. My life's mission is to have every child go to bed at night feeling emotionally safe. Mm. And having those two, my life's purpose and my life's mission, like as my guides, so to speak, right? I feel like just having that truth that I am being divinely guided in how I am unfolding my business, and to be able to help people in the way that it really comes down to there's the you that you think you are, right? The perfectionist, maybe the procrastinator, the people pleaser. There's that you that you think you are, and then there's the you want to become, so that you can be you can be present. Yes. You can be proactive and in the flow with complete focus and ease. And so my work is all about helping you fill in that space in between the two yous, right? Between the you are and the two you want to be. And that space in between is your gap. And first, when we work together, we fill in that gap, which is knowing your life's purpose. And then the work becomes about what it means to live your life's purpose. And that's the work that I do with people.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's probably one of the best descriptions of knowing exactly how you start with, like, I guess kind of getting to the root of some people's issues, and then the gap thing is really cool. I really like that you're, I guess, bridging the gap between our two people, right? The two people that we have. Yes. Are maybe for me it could be my old self versus my new self, or I look at it as maybe on a spiritual side, who I was meant to be and who I'm maybe am now, and getting to that person who we're meant to be. Correct?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, that's the journey.
can you tell us more about just a little bit more of a backstory with you? What got you into becoming a motivational speaker and personal development coach? What brought you to this particular career or calling, if you will?
Yeah. Oh, it was just, doing my own inner work. And just having things not work out the way that I expected, and realizing, right, that I was just sitting in the pity party.
Oh,
And I finally got tired of that because it was no fun. And I finally realized, okay, I don't have all the answers. And so maybe I do need to ask for help, and maybe it's okay to get some help. And as I just started, reaching out for help, mostly around one of my businesses, what I found more and more and more was that, what we think is a business problem is really a personal problem in disguise.
yes. Let's
Yes.
stop there real quick. And I like that you brought that up, because all of the coaching that I've had in chiropractic based coaching in the past, and I see Susan's popped in. She's part of the coaching I've had in the past. Hi, David, Jason, Amber. Thanks for listening. You're listening to Mary Jo Van Horn, personal development coach out of Bismarck. She's a mentor of mine as well, talking about self-worth for health's sake today. If you're just joining us, thank you for listening. As far as going back to the coaching, Mary Jo, I'm a creative entrepreneur. That's what I decide. That's the type of, chiropractic is a creative art, and I'm also a photographer. So having two businesses myself, if I struggle in business is when I'm struggling with myself the most.
Yes.
So can you elaborate maybe just a little bit more on what you were talking about? Do you see a lot of people struggling in their businesses because they're struggling with themselves?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking back, like in so many ways, I barely recognize, the person that I was.
Right.
And as we relate it to our health, and I think there absolutely is our emotional health, and then there's our physical health. And at the time when I was, just starting to reach out and starting to do my inner work, my morning started with high blood pressure medication, which I took with a nice cold Diet Mountain Dew. And then another Diet Mountain Dew right after that. That was how I kind of had to get my morning
I'm
started.
not judging.
Oh,
I'm not
absolutely.
judging you.
Yeah, great. No, and I no longer judge myself for
Right.
that. I mean, that was my reality, and my health revolved around, or I should say, lack of health, right? Revolved around, you know, uh, Diet Mountain Dews, comfort food, and some ice cold Miller Lights almost every night.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the counter heartburn products, because I always went to bed with heartburn, or I would certainly feel it later on. And then prescribed medication so I could sleep. I mean, that was my daily routine, and just a lot of gossip, in with friends and neighbors, and
I get it.
Is what has changed.
Yeah,
It was just really unhealthy.
Right.
I mean, just all the way around, it was unhealthy. And when I started to do the inner work and realized that I really did have a worthiness issue, a low self-esteem, and in building that right from the inside out. Today, I don't take any medication for for blood pressure or to help me sleep. I'm completely off of any type of medication for those two things. I rarely drink pop. I rarely eat fast food, and I don't drink alcohol at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
Good for you.
I mean, I just don't even want it. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is when you start doing your inner work and you really step into your worthiness, your full sense of self-worth
Mm-hmm.
and self-respect and self-love, it just becomes natural for you to want to give your body, to really create that connection, from a place of love and respect for your body,
Right.
that you really want to start to treat it. I call my body the temple that houses my soul.
Ah, that's beautiful.
And we just naturally, start, when we think differently, we act differently.
Well, I'm really glad, we were going to hone in on like question 2s, 4s, and 9s on this list, but you just talked about symptoms and ailments you had by probably now realizing you had a self-worth issue. High blood pressure. A lot of
Absolutely.
people watching might not realize that. And I do a lot of this in my work, Mary Jo. I teach from a book called Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die. Louise Hayes has a lot of work about this as well. We're correlating thoughts and feelings, emotions, and beliefs about ourselves, correlating them into physical manifestations of illness, chronic disease, even as something as simple as a headache. What's behind the thought process behind the headache, according to Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die, is a lot of self-worthiness, lack thereof.
Yeah.
Now, it's
Absolutely.
not the only reason people have headaches, but we're also looking at digestive issues. We could look at things like addiction,
Yes.
eating disorders. We're going to talk about bullying here in a moment, I do believe, correct? We want to talk a little bit about the self-worthiness in the teens today.
And with teens, yes.
Okay. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit, but kind of correlating that the physical symptoms and our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs definitely have a role in our overall health. And so that self-worth for health's sake is really what we're kind of teaching people about today, trying to start a conversation about understanding
Yes.
the work that needs to be involved, not only mentally and emotionally, but physically as well as spiritually as well. In your opinion, Mary Jo, with the people that you're serving, specifically on your coaching side, what's the number one reason people seek you for guidance?
The number one reason is because they want to change their thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And people, in fact, I just had a session with a client yesterday. And at the very beginning of the session, she said to me, Mary Jo, I have read, books like The Secret and The Law of Attraction, and I've watched documentaries and etc. And she said, but what you have helped me to do is actually take what they're saying, take those concepts and actually do it.
Good.
And actually apply it.
Good.
And so people they understand concepts, but it's like they also understand they have to change their way of thinking. And if anybody has followed me or has worked with me for any length of time, that is my core work is understanding your thoughts and becoming aware of your thoughts.
Absolutely. And my way of practicing since I've started when you knew me in Bismarck to now is completely different because of the self-work that I've done. And you may have seen earlier, I celebrate 4 years of sobriety today. And the fact that we're doing this today was just accident because you said, oh, Friday works. And I'm like, oh, wait, what's Friday? Oh, it's a great, beautiful day. Life is great.
Yeah.
Not only not just getting rid of the alcohol for me, but that's when my work really started. And that's what has also transformed my work and how I work with my patients. And I'm out in the community teaching about self-worth more too, also because you've kind of helped me guide towards that as well, Mary Jo. So I really thank you for that.
Yeah, Christina, I just want to say the reason it happened today, there's, nothing is ever a coincidence.
Nope, you're right.
There's always a reason.
Well,
and I'm honored.
Thank you.
To be here
Well,
with you today of all days.
And I just, maybe someday you can get yourself over to Bismarck to see my beautiful space. I practice out of about 800 square feet here in Moorhead. But Kristen, thanks for watching. Dawn, thanks for joining us. Corbin Fox, I remember Corbin, if you're listening here, he was the oldest person in my chiropractic school. I think he was like in my class, he was almost 60 years old. So if you're still practicing, that's awesome, man. Good to see you. I saw you post earlier as well. Let's dive into your definition of self-worthiness. What's your definition, Mary Jo?
My definition of lack of self-worth is believing untrue thoughts about yourself. Right? Because the truth is for all of us is that we are deserving of all abundance just because we were born. So if you believe anything different than that, or in any way that you do not deserve or you are unworthy, that is a lack of self-worth. And I think for our teens these days, this is where it's really showing up, because, you know, as kids, there's nothing more important than that they feel safe. And so when something happens and it doesn't emotionally feel good for them, right? Their brains are not developed enough to know what's really going on. And so in order to feel safe, kids make up stuff about themselves, right? And what they make up is almost always some form of not enough, right? Well, this happened, it must be because I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not popular enough.
Right.
Right. And then what happens is, and that may be somewhat or mostly conscious, or it may be subconscious. And then every time something happens that doesn't emotionally feel good, right, that not enough thought gets validated over and over. And then their self-esteem takes a hit, you know, every time. And in this day with social media, right, that is getting validated constantly over and over and over and over, which doesn't feel good, right? And what happens when you don't feel good? You seek something to make you feel better. So for the teens, what's really huge now? Vaping, you know, or cutting, drugs, alcohol, food, shopping, right? Because they don't want to feel their true emotions, right?
Right.
You know, which are coming from that I'm not enough.
Right.
And so they try these other things trying to numb their emotions so they don't have to feel them, which, and all of those things, right, are not healthy, right? Anything that helps to numb your emotions is not going to be a healthy choice.
Correct.
Yeah.
As far,
and I think that is such a huge problem today, I think, with our youth.
Now, I agree. And I think my last Facebook Live with Dawn Finn, we talked about that as well. You know, what's the shift that we're seeing? Is it, are we having less addiction, depression, anxiety? Or no, not what we're seeing in the statistics is that depression is the #1 disability worldwide. According to Brene Brown's work, she says depression is the #1 debilitating. I think it's one of those, but the root cause of it is some shame and guilt. Then I look back at some of the work I have done in my recovery 12-step work, because it's all about shame and guilt, getting over old resentments that you may have towards family, friends. It goes on and on and on. An old boss, if you will. Holding on to resentments can also show up physically in the body as well.
Of course.
If we kind of switch gears just a little bit about, tell me, we're going to probably skip back to another question here, but you are doing more in your community now than you did prior with your coaching business. Tell me how you're getting out into the community. I hear you have a radio station that you're doing now as well, a radio show. Can you tell me about that?
A radio show. Yes. I've done some presentations around bullying within the community. I am getting more involved with some of the suicide prevention and awareness nonprofits.
Nice.
And then, yes, my radio show, I host a internet-based radio show on urlradio.com. It's the second and the fourth Wednesday of each month.
Okay.
And I share, this is what I'm talking about. The intention for that show is to provide a safe place for people to talk about their emotions.
Nice.
Right? I would love for people to be as comfortable talking about their emotions as they are talking about the weather.
And I agree, because I've done that work too. So being more open, courageous, that word vulnerability comes out a lot lately. Being vulnerable and sharing these things is how people go, oh, I'm not the only one struggling with this stuff. And I think a lot of,
Exactly.
if we go back to the teen thing, if I go back to my teens, we didn't get a lot of education because at that time, we didn't have Facebook Lives. We didn't, I mean, the internet was kind of prevalent, but we didn't go and dig into this stuff when it was like the late 90s, early 2000s for me. And for you, I'm sure it was a little earlier than that, Mary Jo. We didn't talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest, and no offense to my amazing family, but we just didn't really talk about this stuff. And, you
No,
know, so,
most families don't.
right, we don't want to talk about emotions. Like, we have huge rugs to shove them under. And, you know,
Yeah.
I guess in my personal journey is I've kind of been the one to stop the train of passing this type of stuff on to my family and children someday. So for me, it's just a bold statement to get through challenges and share how you got through it with others. And but
Yes.
people like a coach like yourself, like you were saying earlier, come to you because they want to change their thinking.
Mhm.
And that's a great place to start, because if we want to have $1 million business, it's all going to still be right here, the start point. So I really like that you are doing that, Mary Jo, is getting our thinking changed. And I also am helping
Yes.
my clients, my patients, my friends, my family, people in recovery do the same.
Yeah.
How,
And when it
go
comes
ahead.
to our kids, it's, I mean, kids learn how to process their emotions by mimicking their parents or the adults that they are around the most, right? And so I think for me, it feels like that's the tricky part,
Mm-hmm.
is that most parents are believing that they themselves are not enough,
Oh, that's a really good
right?
point. Because guess who's in my practice the most? Yes, I work with some kids, but I'm also taking care of the parents or the stepmoms or the
Yes,
stepdads, because they're struggling with,
yes,
then we have the co-parenting. Then
yes.
you have this a variety. What comes into my office is typically stressed out moms or stepmothers that are laying down on my table and they're just about had it. And
Yes.
so we have to take care of them when they're in the office with me. But a coach like yourself, then, since I only have so much, so I refer people to different coaches, I refer people to counselors, psychiatrists, all these different modalities, because like earlier I had said, this umbrella, like chiropractic and my scope of work is only so much, but we need people like a coach. And the last live I did, we talked about sometimes on our journey, we need somebody for a little while and then we graduate on maybe to the next person because we're asking different questions, right? You're going to see people maybe for a
Absolutely.
while, help them get through an issue, help them so much
Mhm.
that they then are able to, again, maybe even release and move on. And then they're going to help and send people to you for the same kind of thing, right? Or you might manifest in your work differently as well.
Right. No, that's so true. And that's why for me, at the core of what I help people with is helping them to remember their life's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something, that is a shift that absolutely has to take place. And what a beautiful shift that
Yes.
is, you know, because we get so caught up in the day to day and in the details and, you know, in all of the drama. Um, and we lose. And every time, right, every time we think one of those "I'm not enough" thoughts, it's like blanketing, you know, putting a blanket
Mm-hmm.
over, you know, the light that is your life's purpose,
Right.
and becoming more and more, right? That becomes dimmer and dimmer. And so when you do become aware of that again, and you remember your life's purpose, really transformation doesn't have to take a long time. It really doesn't. When you get really connected to that
Mm-hmm.
and you allow yourself to receive as much as you give, a lot can change very rapidly.
One thing I've noticed physically for me is I no longer wake up with anxiety with the work that I've done. And people are like, well, how do you do that? Well, this work that we're talking about, uh, improving your self-worthiness, that you are worthy for being born, and doing some
Mm-hmm.
work around that, like really loving yourself. We do a lot of affirmation work in our office, really completely loving yourself and having to say it 100 times or 108 times if you have to on a regular basis. It's not just about affirmations, but it's connecting with your higher self.
Yes.
Connecting with your higher
Yeah.
self. And that's what I feel I'm doing. And I wasn't doing that when I was struggling. It's almost like being dual-minded, right? This dual-mindedness is, this is what God or source has created me to be. And then here's me on earth struggling, and I'm just constantly fighting her. And you are helping people fill the gap, create.
Yes, because, what happens is when we, validate those not enough thoughts over and over and over, there's always one core thought that becomes a belief that we, create in childhood, and it just sits mostly in our subconscious, if not entirely in our subconscious. And so it just stays with us all the way into adulthood. And so what happens is, consciously we try to prove to the world that that's not true, but then subconsciously we're believing that it is. And that is what creates the internal conflict, right? We're always trying to prove to the world that, we are good enough. I am just as good as my brothers. I am just as popular as my best friend, or whatever that may be. But then deep down we're like, no, you're not. You're not. And it is that internal conflict comes from, our conscious thoughts versus that core subconscious that is really running the show.
That
and so when
is
you
good.
Get to that, yes, and then shift that and know that that's not true, and then start, really start just becoming conscious of the thoughts you're thinking. That's when you can let go of some struggle and let go of the anxiety, because what I teach is there is no such thing as stress, just stressful thoughts.
Yes, that's a really good, I'm going to highlight that when I rewatch this and take notes from this. And if you guys are just turning in, hi, Maria, Connie, Dylan. We're with Mary Jo Van Horn. She's a she's a personal development coach and motivational speaker, mentor out of Bismarck. Let me just check our time. We're getting close to wrapping up our 30 minutes. But, according to that book called Not Feelings Buried Alive, Biology Belief, Bruce Lipton talks about that tape, that unconscious, 95% of the time, that unconscious tape that was developed probably between the ages of birth to age 7, maybe even a little older, is just going. 5% is like conscious thinking, where it's kind of in the now, right? But 95% of our day is running this old tape. And that's kind of what you're saying. And then in chiropractic philosophy, B.J. Palmer stated this a long time ago, 95% of all disease is emotion. We can create this 95 to 5% ratio is showing up a lot. We hear of the 80-20 rule, but in this kind of thing, 95, not that we're thinking ourselves sick, but, right? Would you kind of agree?
I totally agree. I think every dis-ease or disease, I like to refer to it as dis-ease.
So do I.
Or ache and pain or whatever, we absolutely first manifest from our thoughts, because our thoughts influence our emotions, and our emotions influence our actions, and our actions influence our results, and then our results validate our thoughts. So if you want to change your actions, which then will change your results, it starts and ends with your thoughts.
Absolutely. How do you feel? I'm kind of going to go off track here just because, again, we're flowing with this conversation. What is the feeling that people are, so they might not realize that they don't really want to talk about them having a self-worth issue? Like, that's kind of yucky, right? That's kind of a yucky thing to tap on. But what is the thinking that they're trying to change when you start working with people? Is it, I just wish I felt better about myself. I wish I didn't have such negative thoughts about myself. What is it?
I think so. And because, when you know your life's purpose, you live it. And I mean, I know my life's purpose is to help others, know that they are worthy. And so whether it's through my work or whether it's through a friendship or what have you, that is just at the core of my being. So when people know me or they check me out, they very quickly see and can feel that I think different. Um, and they want that.
Right.
And a lot of it is, I want to feel better about myself. I want more self-confidence. A lot of it is I want my child to feel better about themselves,
And then you work with the
you know?
parent, right?
Yes.
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 So,
Yes. It doesn't always go over,
right.
and they don't always follow through
Plant the seed.
and actually start working with me. But I think that is the solution. And I'd love to see that shift where parents, do the work themselves, because we cannot parent from do as I say, not as I do.
Oh,
It just doesn't work anymore. Right. And the
absolutely.
greatest gift a parent can give a child is for that parent, right, to step into their full sense of self-worth, because then they just model it naturally.
Yes. I have some
Right.
very,
And then that's how the kids can learn.
and since I also am teaching from this perspective of helping others find or develop their full sense of self-worth kind of in a mantra way, I already
Mm-hmm.
have moms, single moms, divorced, it doesn't matter, moms. We start talking about this work and they're already starting to have those conversations differently with their children. Maybe the 10-year-old daughter who's going through this really weird phase, puberty
Yes.
and competition and braces and bras, right? And it gets really scary. I remember being in the 5th grade. I started getting acne. I remember having
Yeah.
to, just things changing. And we have to have conscious parents. I think the term I've been using is conscious parenting. Now, I am not a mother yet. So for those of you watching, no, I'm not a mom yet. So I can't say I know it all. But Mary Jo comes from being a mother and shares some of these things as well. And working with parents who have children, you become really, really in tune of what they're trying to tell you. I need my
Yes.
little girl needs some self-worth issues fixed or worked on.
Yeah.
And then you might work with mom a little bit and realize, oh, you know what? We should work on this for you too. Then consciously parenting your daughter might be easier.
Right. Absolutely. Because, if I'll just quickly share the story with my daughter when she was a very young teen, I believe. And one night I found her in her bedroom and she was in tears, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Oh, I have all of these things wrong with my face. I mean, her eyes were too much of something, her chin wasn't right, her smile was awful, her teeth were bad. It was just all these things." And all I could think to say was, "Honey, you are beautiful just the way that you are." And she's like, "No, and this and this and this is wrong and this and this," and she's in tears. And I just kept saying, "No, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. I wish you could see how beautiful you are." And she finally looked up at me and said, through the tears, "You're my mom. You have to say that." And I racked my brain for the comeback, and I just didn't have one. And it wasn't until later, and actually, I remember leaving her bedroom and thinking, "I'm failing here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how to help her." And it broke my heart. But later on, then, as I really started to do this work, what I came to realize was, how many times had she heard me um, criticize myself
Yes.
about how I looked or how the clothes looked, or, I didn't want to be seen, without makeup on or without whatever
Mm-hmm.
on, and how bad my hair was. And I realized that though I wanted her to know self-worth, but I taught her self-criticism.
Wow.
And
That's
that's what we have to see. We have to recognize our role in that as
I
parents.
like that you are aware of that and I guess realize it and have corrected some of the thinking behind that for yourself. Also sharing
Absolutely.
and also being honest being brutally honest and sharing that, because I would bet you for anyone that's listening, you're a parent, a mom or a dad, and you're struggling with a kiddo that maybe doesn't like their body or their hair or their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
They could be getting some of that stuff from mom and dad because they're learning this stuff from us, from parents. And
Right.
we're just making this conversation today, self-worth for health's sake. You know, not just our physical, but our mental, our emotional, our spiritual health as well. You know, developing self-worth is, I'm going to just be honest with you, Mary Jo, I think my developing of the continuing of self-worth development will take till I'm no longer on this planet, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
absolutely. Yeah.
It'll be
Because there will really be no reason to be
right.
here, right? It is your school.
Right. To the day I'm no longer breathing air in these lungs, I feel that there will always be self-care, love, work to be done. And that comes from all varieties of ways, whether I seek out counseling, seminars, teach, read,
Yes.
write, meditate, whatever about this type of
Mm-hmm.
subject. All right, for those that are listening, we're going to be wrapping up soon for health self-worth talk today with Mary Jo Van Horn out of Bismarck. Mary Jo, how can people connect with you, and do you have any upcoming events that you would like to share?
Sure. I'd love to have you connect with me if you like what you heard from me today. My Facebook page is, I just changed it. It is at In the Flow for Blended Families. And so my Facebook business page is really going to focus on creating a loving and supportive family, especially as it relates to blended families. So you can connect with me there, In the Flow for Blended Families. And then also my personal Facebook is Mary Jo Van Horn. And my website is maryjovanhorn.com.
Okay.
And on Instagram, it's The Power of Joy.
Okay.
And I would like to just share my next radio show, Letting It Go. That is an internet-based radio show. It airs the second and fourth Wednesday of each month. So the next show will be March 27th.
Okay.
And that topic is, what if the struggle wasn't real? What if it wasn't real?
Ah, I love it.
Yes. And so for how to listen live to those shows, go to my website, maryjovanhorn.com/listen. And that'll give you the instructions to listen live.
I know we're running out of our time here. We're still doing good. It is a Friday afternoon. I saw patients till 1. I remember, Mary Jo, when you came and we visited about a few things. Can you talk about this Midwestern work ethic thing? Can you tell me, did you grow up in a dairy as well?
Yes.
And so did I, farm, dairy. This North Dakota nice work ethic that we have can cause a lot of sickness maybe for some people. Or can you tell me your story?
It can cause a lot of struggle.
Yes. Can you tell me about the struggle?
Yeah. I do think that it stems from, right, at the time when, you know, everybody worked the land. And just to survive, you had to work hard. And everybody had a job to do. And I mean, it was just required. You know, I mean, hard work was required. And I think through the generations, right, there came this way of what's the word? Being seen for how hard you work and feeling good, acknowledged for how hard you work, praised for how hard you worked. And especially, you know, when I grew up, we were mostly praised for how hard we worked. And so then when what kind of naturally happens is, if you don't work hard, you don't feel good, right? Because if we were caught, you know, watching TV in the middle of the afternoon on a summer, you know, we heard that, get your worthless butt outside and, you know, weed the garden, you know, which was just a huge garden. And so you know, you start to associate ease with that's not good enough.
Like for instance, I look at it as I can actually do well now working 25 hours a week. Somebody might on the outside might look at me and go, well, you must not be working hard enough. No, I actually can create more abundance now, working in less amount of time than I used to,
Yes.
working 3 jobs prior to opening up this practice like I did. So share with.
Yeah, there's a big difference between working hard as a way to feel good about yourself and then working hard as an expression of your life's purpose.
Right. And I'll tell you this, you know, coming from a farm life, I think that's kind of, and I would never change it for the world, to be honest with you. I did learn a lot of hardworking characteristics and understanding that you just, you know, you don't give up easily. Those types of things were kind of manifested into my being, if you will. But there's a time for rest now for me. That's part of doing this work. This work means instead of going to lift a whole bunch of weights at the gym, I'm going to go to yoga instead.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't go out to the bars on a Friday night. My hair's down, my bra's off, I'm in my sweatpants, I'm in bed by 9.
Right.
You know?
Love it. Yeah, me too.
So, and I'm okay with that. My old self would be like, you're worthless. You're sitting at home on a Friday night. You have no friends. You're not good enough. You have no life. That doesn't even come into this knocker anymore, right? This just doesn't happen anymore. And I liked you, when you first shared that story with me, I identified with it because I'm like, holy cow, I'm such a workaholic and busy all the time. But I was sick then. I can still be busy now, but it's like peace. I have peace doing work now. Does that make sense?
And that's where it's so important to understand, you know, your thoughts and to just allow for what it, you know, for what it is, to be what it is, and embrace it with love and compassion for yourself. But when you realize that you're pushing yourself, you're working yourself, you know, to the bone, as that's the only way you're really going to feel good about yourself. Yeah, that's not healthy.
Right. Well, this has been beautiful. I hope our audience today has learned some great things. Mary Jo Van Horn, that's MaryJoVan Horn.com. You can share any comments you want below. I'm going to be downloading this and sharing it to YouTube. Mary Jo, I'll share this with you as well. You can also find that easily to post for yourself as well. And I guess I want to thank you, Mary Jo, for sharing with me today. I hope maybe we can do this again in the future and talk specifically on another topic. But I could continue to have a conversation about building more self-worth. And I think a lot of people are curious now. They may reach out to you. They may reach out to me like, how do I do this? Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. And someone like Mary Jo, someone like me, a holistic chiropractor, we can get you started, and maybe we can send you to the people that you need as well. Mary Jo, thank you so much for joining us. MaryJoVanHorn.com.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, and we will see you again, friend.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Christina.